Here's this marketing tactic that big brands use on you to extract money out of your pocket. You ever gone to the shopping mall, asked the guy in the shoe store to bring you something your size? They come back saying, you got lucky. This is the last one we have. Of course you did. That subconsciously triggers something called the Lollapalooza effect. Essentially, they're creating FOMO and urgency to trigger your mind to think that that shoe or that product is in high demand, therefore making you want to buy it now. And that's the same exact thing we do when it comes to online marketing. We use words like urgency, exclusivity, limited edition. Why? Because we want to create FOMO. When there's FOMO, there's impulse. And when there's impulse, there's dollars. And that's how we use the Lollapalooza effect to generate more sales online.
This is part 1 of teaching you how to edit Reels for people's Instagrams. Starting with Premiere Pro, I opened up the Auto-Generate Caption tab and adjusted the maximum length to 14 and the duration to 2.5, also making sure the number of lines was set to single. Then I went to upgrade the captions to graphics by going to the Graphics and Titles tab and also applied these caption settings on screen. After I nested them, I applied the Drop Shadow and Turbulent Displace effect onto the nested sequence, changing the softness to 268 and opacity to 50%, but for the Turbulent Displace effect, I changed the amount to 15, size to 5, and complexity to 1. Also, I toggled the evolution and changed the evolution at the beginning of the sequence from 0 to 32x 78 degrees at the end. Now I went into the nested sequence and adjusted the captions to make sure there are no errors or punctuation. Time for the first animation. I added a blue Nike logo, which you can find in the Assets folder. I typed out the key phrase Big Brands and applied the Drop Shadow effect. I also changed the font to Neue Hass, which you can find available in the folder. I adjusted the Drop Shadow effect by changing the distance to 50 and softness to 124 and applied the wave and text animation. Now I started to animate in the Nike logo, so it rises in. I pre-composed everything and keyframed the whole thing so it slides out downwards. Once I was happy, I added the wiggle effect, changing the amount to 10. I wanted the logo to stand out more, so I dragged over the light sweep effect, putting one at the beginning of the swoosh and also one at the end with the center keyframe. And by adjusting the angle of the light sweep, I realized the text was too high, so I lowered it a bit and applied drop shadow to the swoosh as well, picking the same blue and making the opacity 25% and softness 80. I imported a black gradient to make the animation stand out more and linked it to the swoosh so it animates in at the same time. I also created a zoom out at the beginning to grab the viewer's attention. I made a white box and applied the vignette effect. I imported the blue mall icon and created a slide-up animation for the whole thing. Then I added a wiggle to the icon, making the amount 25, and dragged the light sweep effect, adjusting the direction to 55 degrees, and toggled the center keyframe and moved it from the top to bottom. Also, I added some drop shadow with the opacity at 50% and softness at 20. Then I added a person icon and animated the scale from 0 to 30 with the same effect as the mall icon, but no light sweep. I went on to animate the mall icon out to the left and toggled the motion blur box. As that animated out, I animated the person icon by increasing the size and moving it to the center. Then I added the key text, which I placed one above and below the icon, both with the wave and text animation. I imported two blue shoe icons, which I placed near the person icon and animated them both by changing the scale keyframe from 0 to 20. After I pre-composed them both and added a slight wiggle with the amount being 10. Then I created a slide down animation to go back to the footage. I typed out the key phrase and centered it in the middle, making the top line blue with the wave and animation. I also animated it out so it slides down and added a light sweep again. I adjusted the light sweep to be at an angle of 58 degrees and moved it across from left to right. Then I copied the same gradient as the Nike logo and also linked it to the text. Part 2 is dropping in a few days, so make sure to subscribe